welcome to the President's Podcast right here on the record with the Ohio Senate. The views the news excludes. I'm John Fortney, the Director of Communication with the Senate Republican Caucus, the Majority Caucus in the Ohio Senate. Great to have back on the program during a big week, of course, for veterans. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. A veteran, Senator Terry Johnson, Republican from Scioto County, McDermott, I believe, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Well, happy Veterans Day. I mean, just reflect a little bit about on the service of you and your colleagues.
Well, you know, before I entered the military, I had great respect for veterans. My dad was a veteran. I had an uncle that served in Vietnam in '67 as a combat tanker, of all things, on a tank in Vietnam, and an uncle who fought his way across Europe. Literally from Normandy into Berlin, just a wonderful family tradition. But then, being in the military for 21 years gave me a greater sense of respect for the institution, how it worked, and just exactly the sacrifices that people make just serving. Some people serve in combat theater, some people don't, but everybody signs up to go where they're needed on the team. That could be in the thick of it, or that could be in support, and everybody is greatly appreciated.
Well, they don't necessarily see their family for your 18 months, right?
Yeah, the sacrifices of the family. I was a commander in many years of my service, and just having to look after those families left behind when we deployed into Iraq and other places. It was very hard on them. A lot of people were of limited means, and the person that was going overseas was the one making the decisions, and it was tough on them. Our chaplain service stepped up, did a great job, but the family sacrifice, and to see the moms and dads just worried about what's going to happen, and unfortunately those turned from Blue Star families to Gold Star families. It was a devastating thing. So my heart goes out to everyone that's a veteran, and from the deepest part of my soul, I appreciate them.
Happy birthday as well to the United States Marine Corps.
Those guys.
Celebrating the nation's semi-cinquentennial. Right. You're an Army. Yeah,
oh, yeah,
right? Yeah. But, the Marines, 250 years, as we reflect about this little test they call the United States of America, right? And right. It's a republic if you can keep it, I believe Benjamin Franklin said. Where the country has come from its humble beginnings in the fight for freedom, and to have a democratic republic, to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, just focusing on the Marines, if you don't like the United States Marine Corps, you're not an American. And I see people that, Marines, they're horrible. Who are you? Why are you walking the earth in America, breathing and expressing such opinions, if you wouldn't be here if it weren't for them?
First to fight.
Oh my gosh, I've got nothing but great respect. When I was a kid, I loved the Marine Corps when I was a kid, and my dad was a sailor. He hauled them around,
That's right.
Just being in the Army takes continents and holds continents. The Marines do a very important job. They are the nation's shock troops. They're respected and feared throughout the world, and rightly so. No one wants to be on the wrong side of the United States Marine Corps. Semper Fi.
That's right, Semper Fi. As we look at where the state of politics has gone, or what has developed into today in some of the more deep blue states, we look at what has happened in New York City with the election of a so-called, quote, democratic socialist. I'm not sure that those two words belong next to each other. It's more like a socialist. And when you see these developments, and maybe just your thoughts on what a democratic socialist definition really means.
Well, they're communists. There was a guy here at the Senate and House for a long time, Len Watchman.
Oh, sure.
Len was a little bit liberal with his excoriation of who was a communist, but he was right. Communism is alive and well. It has many different guises and forms, but democratic socialist is one of them. It's not democratic at all, except to the point that it uses a word to get where it wants to go. The democratic socialists, the radical left, have taken root in our Democrat Party, which is just horrible. Democrat Party is full of good people that love America. and they have a different view than us conservatives, but they are a part of our American tradition, have a rightful place. To have allowed the infiltration of their party, they've been very wrong-headed about that. And, Mondami over in New York, he has feasted on the carcass of the New York Democrat Party and has come out of his larval form into politics. And the nation is not ready for that. It should have never happened. The Democrats shouldn't have let it happen. They need to take action to reverse that.
Well, one of the very interesting things about that is also what was happening just a couple weeks ago, and it resulted in a floor speech from the Ohio Senate, and it was based off an amendment that was offered by the Senate Democrats that would basically have used the BSF, the Budget Stabilization Fund, which you probably heard called the Rainy Day Fund in Ohio, to cover some $230 million a month of SNAP benefits that would have been frozen because of the Schumer shutdown. And the narrative on the national side was that Chuck Schumer, the longtime Democrat state senator, U.S. senator, was basically being held hostage politically by that radical wing of the Democrat. I mean, it's no longer the party of Tip O'Neill, right, during the days of O'Neill and Reagan. But back to what it generated on the floor was Republicans said, no, the Budget Stabilization Fund is to stabilize the budget.
Correct.
Not for a rainy day, not for covering millions and millions of dollars of spending.
And there are many people that are very, very willing to spend other people's money for everything. And all the tax dollars we have, that's other people's money. Conservatives say other people's money. Those people are taxpayers. We don't have any money except theirs, but we're going to treat their money as if we have great respect for the people that paid those tax dollars. And the Budget Stabilization Fund is for the prosperity of Ohio, which lists everyone. If we don't have the Budget Stabilization Fund, and when I came into office in the Ohio House of Representatives in 2011, we had less than $1.
I was going to say, it was like 60 cents or something.
And an $8 billion shortfall in the budget, which the opposition here, the Democrats, were anticipating just raising taxes to make it up, while they were talking about grandiose things like a bullet train from Columbus to Cleveland, and all kinds of shovel-ready dollars that the Obama administration. It was just a total mess. And it was reflected in the fact that no businesses wanted to come to Ohio, and people were hemorrhaging out of Ohio because of increasing taxes and the threat of more. But we changed that, and that Budget Stabilization Fund is what will bring prosperity to Ohio, and you can't go running to it to spend it for just anything. A worthy cause, feeding poor people, oh my goodness, we don't want anybody to go hungry. Absolutely not. But that was not an appropriate solution, and it was a bit of a cheap political theater trick to do a floor amendment to try to embarrass us. I wasn't embarrassed at all. Nobody on my side of the aisle wants to see anybody go hungry. On the other hand, we do want to see a prosperous Ohio and a brighter future for everyone.
Sure. And here on the state level, too, if you're an able-bodied male, there's requirements that for benefits that you work. That seems reasonable. Everybody else is working. That's the whole point, right? Getting people into the mainstream workforce, having them pay taxes, be part of the system, and basically grow their careers.
Yeah, but
not just, it's amazing to see sometimes what you see on social media, people celebrating the fact that, well, I don't work, I'm just waiting for my benefits. The brazenness of that, I can't
But they don't even call it their benefits, they call it their paycheck.
Their paycheck.
Yeah, so my dad worked for a paycheck. He came out of the Korean War, went to work at the uranium enrichment plant, and made about $70 a week, back in the 50s and 60s, and, was able to feed his family. He got a paycheck, and he paid taxes. And he was a Korean War veteran that served on the Yorktown, in the Korean War. So that's a paycheck. You earn a paycheck. And when we say we're holding people accountable and making them work, it's not like the old days. There's all kinds of latitude and slipperyism in there, and people game the system. We do need to hold people accountable, and we need to have people that grow up in America and understand that they have accountability and responsibility, and you wouldn't have to have somebody looking over their shoulder. In my dad's day, people worked and expected to work, and they were ashamed if they had to go on the dole. And they helped people that were on the dole get off the dole. It was a good thing to do, a good neighbor. During the Depression and the 1940s, when people were actually hungry, people helped each other. Churches helped each other. Neighbors helped each other. We got to get back to that.
Pride and integrity in holding down a career, a job.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. One of the things too, before we leave that topic, you're a doctor. You've been a practitioner for decades, correct? And it's very interesting too when we were seeing basically the Schumer shutdown and what we were just talking about the attempt to pass a floor amendment by the Democrats on the Senate floor. And it all came down to health care for migrants, illegal migrants, and the preservation of Obamacare stipends that were set to expire soon, after 3 years, that the then majority party, the Democrats, had put in place. What about the whole, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan? If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. What has that system that may have had good intentions to begin with, what has it turned into as far as costs and the access to medical care?
Yeah, so all that rhetoric that took place, and all the political backbreaking that took place to make that, because a lot of Democrats didn't like that. Backs were broken to get that done, and we just saw them sacrifice their own right and left to get to that Obamacare goal line. And that was all rhetoric, to be charitable. It was disingenuous. To be truthful, it was a bunch of lies. It was going to happen. They were going to have a one-payer system as best as they could get it. And anytime the government gets involved in the free market, it doesn't work. Everything gets more expensive. Everything is now more expensive. Big surprise. How do we fix America's health care, which is not as good as it used to be and getting worse? We go back to a free market economy, a free market system. The further we get from that, the worse things get.
I was talking to an anesthesiologist not too long ago, and he used to be in private practice with a group of doctors, and then suddenly it became too expensive. And what he said has happened is you see a lot of these hospital groups and big medical groups basically buying these up, and either you go to work for them or you retire. Which doesn't that limit access overall?
Oh, absolutely it does. And we have a new type of doc today, an 8 to 5 doc. When I was a kid, I rarely went to the doctor. If I did, my mom paid cash for it, from my dad's $70 a week paycheck, if we went to the doctor, it was a rarity. Nowadays, if you go to the doctor, it's not that doctor that was always on call, always at the hospital, assisting the surgeon with your surgery, very personally involved in your life. That almost is gone from America. So the small business aspect, where a doctor took care of his own office, took care of his own people, groomed it like someone carefully tends a garden, that small business aspect of the personal family physician is gone. And so people work fewer hours. You need more providers. And the hospital doesn't want to pay doctors, so we have extended providers. And the extended providers, are getting extended providers.
Right.
It's just, you have more people and you have less work and you have less skin in the game. Hospitals tell doctors what to do. Hospitals tell nurse practitioners what to do. They tell the PAs what to do. If it's good medicine, well, that's a good day. If it's not good medicine but good business is going to prevail because the person that writes the paycheck makes the decisions. This is not what American people think they have. America is getting sicker, fatter, just all kinds of reasons why things aren't as good as they should be, but most of all, it's because we invited the government into something that they didn't belong in.
Yeah, I was amazed the first time I had the experience. A family member was in the hospital, and in comes a doctor, and I introduced myself, and I had never met this person. A very, very nice, very kind, good, great bedside manner. I said, "Well, who are you?" "Well, I'm the hospitalist." I said, "What's a hospitalist? Where's this person's doctor? Where's that he's known for the last 25 years?"
Right.
It's very different now. One of the things that may be very different very soon, and the General Assembly is working on it diligently, is to reform Ohio's property tax laws.
Right.
Keep in mind,
Right.
Property taxes don't go to the general revenue fund of the state of Ohio.
Correct. Yeah.
They raise money for local political subdivisions. So where do you stand on this campaign that is out there pretty strong on social media right now, trying to gather signatures to place a constitutional amendment on next year's ballot that would repeal property taxes statewide?
Well, you have to have sympathy for the taxpayer, especially in the economy we just came through. We were talking about Obamacare and the 8 years that Obama was president. He was trying to sign people up on Medicaid and Medicare. Let's put more people on the government dole. Let's hire more people. So things went in the wrong direction. Then Biden polished it off with his response to COVID. We're going to say that we're going to shut down the country, and therefore we're going to make sure that you've got a check coming in. Well, where's that money coming from? We're going to print it. There's the inflation. The economy went in the tank. People on fixed incomes, people that are hard pressed to meet their bills, their property values went up, so they're property poor. So, the tax assessors say, well, pay us more money. I don't have more money. Of course they're frustrated. But we've got to point the finger at the right target. The right target is the Biden administration and how they printed money as gleefully as Idi Amin when he found out he had the printing press in Uganda when he first became the dictator of Uganda. So they just went wild, printed this money, wrecked the economy, and simultaneously had a war on fossil fuels. We're going to get rid of fossil fuels. We're going to raise the price. We can't make people stop driving cars, but we can make it so expensive it's painful. Well, they did. And so inflation went crazy. Now folks are frustrated, but on the other hand, in Ohio, since I came into the legislature in 2011, 8 years in the House and these years over here in the Senate, we have consistently lowered income tax. We didn't do it all at once. It has to be a transition. Just getting rid of the $8 billion shortfall we walked into was painful. To get rid of property taxes and crash our schools and the different things that we have to have, you can't do it overnight. It's a well-intentioned from the heart thing that people say, I'm renting my own house from the government and they can take it if I don't pay my taxes. Well, they've got a legitimate complaint there. But you got to do that gradually because we also have to educate our kids. And we have to make sure that we have a brighter future for them tomorrow. You can't do that by just pulling the rug out from under them.
Yeah, one of the sound bites or one of the videos that we put out there on Facebook on Reels, and you can find it at Ohio Senate Republicans, Senate President McCauley basically said, listen, the state of Ohio every year collects about $30 billion in taxes. And we have reduced the income tax rate in the state down to 2.75%, a flat tax that takes effect July 1st, which is the second year of the biennium. Around the state, property taxes is $22 billion. And when you hear the campaign out there say, well, we blame the General Assembly and they'll just have to find a fix for it and fill that hole, that isn't going to happen, he said, unless you'd be interested in raising income taxes to 10% and having a sales tax rate of 18 to 20%. Yeah. You want some outrage? That will be an avalanche of outrage. It's just not feasible. Plus, you lose a lot of local control because if local taxpayers believe that the school levy that is in front of them for a new school or whatever it may be is worthwhile, okay, you can vote for that levy or for the new fire department, volunteer fire department building, whatever it is.
Right.
But to replace that hole is just not going to come from the state taxpayers and the General Assembly.
That's correct. Again, the frustration is real, and no one wants to pay more taxes. It's your money, but we've got to, do that at the ballot box in a well thought out, considered way.
One of the things too that I know you voted for was the veto override that basically no longer permits substitute emergency levies and new replacement levies moving forward. An important step because that basically allowed additional revenue on local taxpayers without a vote of your local taxpayers.
Yeah, we sort of went to war with England over this whole thing at one point in our history, right? Yep. And then really, that even went back to before the Tea Party and the stamp tax and things like that we read about in our high school history courses. There was something that Britain did to America, I think in 1764. It was called the Currency Act.
Yep.
And they decided that America was just too darn prosperous They were ordinary folks were prosperous, where in England and all over Europe, ordinary folks weren't.
Right.
So that meant there was some money floating around that they couldn't get their hands on. So they passed the Currency Act, put us on the gold standard, and caused a depression, and that led to all the tax problems, as I recall.
Yep. I want to talk a little bit about some of your legislation. Senate Bill 7 passed the Senate 33-0, one of those great unanimous bipartisan bills. And sometimes you wonder, based on as we said earlier, on the overall political environment nationwide and how that spreads down to the states, even at the local level. But basically it says, okay, schools K through 12, we need to have some instruction regarding the danger of drug abuse, the harmful effects of drug abuse.
Yeah, that's correct. And this is something that has been close to my heart since Dave Burke and I, in 2011, passed House Bill 93 at the time, which closed the pill mills. The pill mills were the industrialized, legitimate addiction of America. And it wasn't just in Ohio, although Ohio had it just in a fulminant way. It was all over the country. And people got addicted to opioids, and they were using legitimate medical practices and legitimate pharmacies to fill these scripts. And then the black market got hold of these OxyContin, and all the different opioids that were out there, including medicinal fentanyl. And people got addicted. So we started cracking down on that, rightfully so, way too late. And then the next thing the cartels were right there with heroin
and fentanyl.
And these people started taking it. And a little bit later, the fentanyl came out as an improved product for the cartels to market. Even though it killed their customers, they still made much more money killing their customers, if you can believe that. What I saw at the very beginning was how difficult it was to try to help people once they're addicted. And what we really need to do was cut off the demand for these products. And that's an education process. And the education process rests firmly in the schools of America. And when do you start? Do you start in high school? Much too late. Do you start in middle school? Too late. It's got to be in kindergarten, when you can first get to them. We'll teach them all kinds of stuff in schools, right? And the teachers get into it, and they can convince them of anything. These kids, they are malleable and they trust. Let's teach them not to do drugs, because the surest way to ruin your life and make sure that you're going to have a horrible life and horrible health is to do drugs, from alcohol to marijuana to these highly addictive things like methamphetamines and opioids. Teach them not to do it. Frustrate the cartels by not having any customers. And our schools need to step up and do this. They haven't. So I've got a bill that says we're going to have age-appropriate instruction for kids. And had we done this 10 years ago, there would be many, many people alive today because we would have gotten to them. Our teachers are wonderful at teaching. That's what they do. They need to teach them that these things are bad. And if they're politically opposed to teaching kids that they shouldn't be doing heroin, that teacher's got a problem. Yeah, that administrator's got a problem.
Yeah, the Ohio Senate is not politically opposed to it since that bill passed 33-0.
Almost all my bills against drug abuse have been bipartisan and unanimous. There have been an occasional defector for whatever reason, but these are things we can get behind as Americans. They're unifiers, and our schools need to step up and do this. It won't be overly burdensome. We made it so that they can do it, and we need to get to it as soon as possible. I hope the House gets this moving.
This may irritate some people out there, and if so, so be it. But I believe that securing the border on day one, and now, would you agree that border's secure?
Yeah.
I think when you look at the Department of Homeland Security videos out there of drug dealers and go-fast boats and speedboats being blown up, whether you agree with that or not, or you want to argue the legality of it or not, these people are trafficking deadly substances across the border into the hands of our youth. Right. And at least it sends a strong deterrent message, I believe anyway, that we take this very seriously now. This is no longer Miami Vice. This is real life. And if you're going to be doing that, there will be consequences meeting you before you get to the border.
Well, that's correct. And if you look at what the drug cartels do to each other and anyone that opposes them, It's as bad as the communists in Vietnam when we were trying to fight a terrible war over there in the 1960s. They would go into a village and behead people. They would make examples of them. Typical communist playbook. The cartels reign by terror. And so they want money, and they want no one else to have their money. And they'll kill anybody in their way. And then one of their drug boats gets blown up. Oh, let's call foul. That's not cricket, apparently. We're not going to be able to do that.
Let's sue.
Yeah, exactly. and so, if the federal government has designated them as foreign terrorist organizations, the cartels, and I hope that they're including some of the Chinese triads in that, because they are very much involved. And the heck with China, if they want to protest about that. They killed almost 70,000 Americans in 1 year recently in America by subsidizing the precursors that the Mexican cartels fed by the Chinese triads. This is all provable. Why isn't that in the Columbus Dispatch or the Plain Dealer? Why don't they do something useful for a change instead of feeding the folks that want to listen to their political tripe? These are things that are existential to our country, and our media is failing us by not reporting this stuff. Yeah, we blew up some drug boats. I think probably we're going to blow up a few more.
Before I let you go in our last 3 or 4 minutes here, this is something that's always controversial. It's about people using tanning beds, but specifically children, teenagers using tanning beds. So if you're an adult, you want to do that, okay. If you're as light complected as I am, where if you're going to tan, all your freckles have to come together, it can be very, very dangerous. You have a bill, excuse me, it's Senate Bill 25. Tell me what that does.
Yes, I've been working on this since I came to the legislature. Courtney Combs was a representative at the time, and he had a tanning bed bill, and I signed on to it gladly because it was a health bill and something that was very important. The folks that run tanning bed businesses, there's nothing wrong with their business, and adults, can go to those and they can get a tan if they want to. That's fine. But kids have highly influenceable skin. So it's very easy to disrupt the DNA and cause cancers in their skin. They shouldn't be tanning in that industrial fashion. And so my bill would make it so that, you have to be 18 before you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Or have your parents' permission, I think.
Yeah.
Is that part of it? If you're 16 or 17.
Parent right there.
Yeah.
Well, right now they can, and the way I've reformed it, with parents' permission, when you're 16, you can do that. But this will take it up to 18 and make it more difficult.
Bronze are always a better way for kids, right? If you want to have that tan for prom or whatever.
Well, yeah, they have these spray tans.
Yeah.
And the spray tans have been a moneymaker for the tanning bed industry, and they're relatively safe.
Yep. State Senator Terry Johnson, Republican from the 14th District, McDermott, Ohio, Scioto County. Thanks so much for your time and insight today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.